Hosted in conjunction with Chris Media, the CEO interview series allows investors to hear directly from the CEOs leading the companies featured on Wholesale Investor. Enjoy the interview and reach out via the details in the description.
Hi and welcome to another Crisp TV Q&A. Today I'm joined by Duncan Ritchie, CEO of Praesideo. Thank you for joining me, Duncan.
Sydney, good to meet you.
Duncan, just to set the course for today's interview, can you give us a high-level overview of Praesideo, who you are, what you bring to the data analytics space in general?
Sure. So Praesideo is a enterprise SaaS or software as a solution climate data platform. We're based in Geneva, but climate is obviously a global problem, so we're a global solution. And what we bring to the table is a proprietary set of science-based climate analytics that will help to reshape global supply chains to address the climate problem. And what we do is we help companies to cut the time and cost of transitioning their supply chains to align with their climate goals.
Okay, so I did have a brief read of the business profile ahead of the interview, and I came across a phrase that maybe you can dive a bit deeper into, which was, Praesideo provides visibility of full value chain emissions. So you've considered that to be the main value proposition of Praesideo. So what is the problem you identified in that realm, in the market, that motivated you to work on this particular solution?
So the full value chain or providing visibility on full value chain emissions or supply chain emissions is definitely part of our value proposition. Mm-hmm. But we go beyond data. And so that's really just the starting point. We then provide that set of climate analytics tools and metrics that both suppliers and their customers get to see. So the company and its suppliers get to see the same set of metrics. And what that enables is really allowing both parties to have a shared understanding of where they are on climate and what they need to do in order to transition. And really what we wanted to, what the tool provides is that ability to engage around solutions and around developing, partnering around developing transition pathways that achieve the objectives of both parties. So it's about building partnerships to transition global supply chains effectively.
Understood. And I mean, obviously there are some timely headwinds associated with this value proposition at Praesideo, and in light of this, well, not so new, but obviously ongoing wave of environmental consciousness. Are you seeing the businesses follow suit in verifying their effect on climate? Are you seeing a demand increase with these headwinds, Duncan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's kind of been a perfect storm brewing for the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months, where you've got customers, you've got financial markets, and you've got regulators all lining up, asking companies to start reporting their climate emissions, the carbon emissions, to set net zero targets, and then to take climate action to follow through on those commitments. And that's a really powerful impact on companies. And I think the piece that I would single out there is the regulation. So I think up until now, a lot of companies have sort of sat on the sidelines and they've said, well, let's wait for the rules, right? And I think the rules are now pretty clear. I think there's sort of an evolution of those rules on climate reporting. And so that's now quite clear, and that's going to be embedded into regulation in the near future. And so there's a lot of pressure on companies now to really respond on climate.
So with that pressure, obviously, there's going to be a range of methods. As you mentioned, there's a new market emerging where the pressure is being applied, and they need to be fully aware of their emissions and line them up with certain objectives. So what are the alternative methods available, and how does Praesideo differ from those alternative methods and maintain its competitive edge?
That's a great question. So up until now, climate reporting has really been focused on the very large companies because that's where where most of the pressure has been,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been restricted. Most of those companies, so not all companies are responding. A very small percentage of companies have been reporting on climate, and quite often that reporting has excluded those supply chain emissions because it hasn't actually been required for the majority of companies.
Mm-hmm.
A key development last year, within the last 8 months or so, is that the rules kind of have changed, and there was a recognition that actually, it's really important that companies report on those supply chain emissions. In fact, that's where, probably 75, 80, 90% of emissions are from most companies. So it was strange that it was being left out of the of the reporting requirements, but now it's been included, and so those companies are being asked to report their emissions. But what the interesting thing with that requirement is that those companies now need data from their supply chains. So it moves it from just being, here's my data to here's my data, and I need to collect this data from all of my suppliers. Up until now, those that have been doing it have kind of been using, intensity and assumptions. And I think the unique thing that we do is we actually bring suppliers and bring their data onto the platform and then create that engagement, as I talked about. And so that rule change, if you like, has been great for, great timing for us, because we've been working on a solution because we could see this coming. It had to come because of the size of the emissions in what they call scope 3 in supply chain emissions, and so we've been working on a solution for a problem that most companies didn't know they had, and now they know they've got it, and we're 2.5 weeks away from product launch, so it's been fantastic for us.
Oh, amazing. Now, I want to ask something in line with that. I mean, how has you talked about product launch, so maybe this is a bit too early to ask, but has the market responded to this technology already? Are there key clients or current projects that you can disclose?
Yeah, so we've obviously been market testing with different people across the last 6-8 months or so, and there's been a really strong positive response to our product. Ahead of our product launch, we've been developing a pilot program, in fact, with a group of a cities network, roughly 100 cities, and within that, we've got a pilot program with one of the cities in the UK. In fact, one of the sort of smaller, middle-sized UK cities, and that's been enormously beneficial for us in two respects. One is that we've got some amazing feedback, in terms of what the pain points are and what the customer wants. And so that's actually been really helpful for us informing our product delivery and prioritizing some things which we had kind of pushed back in the product development, and we realized actually that was a key pain point for SMEs, for example. And so we brought that forward into the first release of the product, mid-February when we release. And then the second thing is it's been great getting that validation from suppliers and from the cities, in the context of this is a product that really the cities and the suppliers want, and from a supplier's perspective, you would sort of think, well, this just creates more work for us. But in fact, what we're hearing from a lot of suppliers, particularly in Europe, for example, is that they're getting ad hoc requests at the moment from customers because lots of people want this data, and so they see the power of having a unified, common set of metrics and data collection process, so that they can just they can do it once and point people to the platform and say, okay, here it is. And rather than sort of, because a lot of these companies, the SMEs in particular, are they're 10 or 15 or 20 people or 100 people even, and they don't have, a sustainability department like the big companies. And so this is helpful for them. It's kind of almost counterintuitive, but it's helpful for them to be able to respond to those requests by just doing it once effectively.
Absolutely. So Duncan, look, it sounds like the business it has a timing, the technology, and the market validation. Now, talk to us about the team behind the venture and what specific skills they bring to the table as you grow and scale.
So the team obviously is, the people are the biggest asset in any business, and I think that's particularly true in a startup. We're super lucky in that we've got an amazing team that is very small, obviously, as a startup, but we've got 5 full-time employees, 3 of whom are co-founders. So among the co-founder group, we've got Shana, who heads up our carbon analytics team. We've got Nidish, who heads he's the CTO and heads our technology development. And that's really the core of the business, so climate analytics and technology software development. And then I'm the third co-founder. And so the team arcs across and brings the sort of the cross section of skill sets that we need in technology and climate analytics and business regulation, in business development, and financial services market. We're developing a product in that area also. And that's the core team. And the other thing that I would say there is that we're all incredibly passionate about what we do and the problem that we're solving. So it's great to work with a group of passionate people. And then supporting the executive team is, we have a number of board advisors who act as sounding boards and give us access to their networks, in capital raising and in customer connections, et cetera, et cetera. So, and it's always good to have, to be able to sort of get that reality check when you're working on something, as you do in a startup, to get that, to be able to sort of put your head up and test assumptions with people that are not, immersed in the business 24/7. Is great to validate, what we're doing and make sure that we're all on the right track.
Absolutely. Well, Duncan, I guess as a parting question today, we'd love to hear, especially from the perspective of a prospective investor, what the outlook is for Praesideo over the next 6 to 12 months. What are you looking forward to? What sort of milestones are you looking to hit that we should be anticipating?
So obviously the key immediate milestone, as I mentioned, was we're launching product on the 15th of February. And we're super excited about that. Obviously, that's a huge milestone for the company, getting the product out there, and then we'll be building obviously on the product as we go. Then off the back of that, we're developing a number of key partnerships, and so in the same way as the business operates in that sort of one-to-many kind of relationship, those partnerships will enable us to scale quickly and get traction quickly by embedding ourselves into associations and networks. And then the third milestone later in the year. So I alluded to this. I think we're developing a financial services product. So it's operating similarly to the supply chain concept of that one-to-many. So banks and investment managers will need to align their portfolios and their loan books with climate targets, and so we're going to take the principles that we've got in the supply chain product and then replicate that for a financial services portfolio product, as we call it.
Well, there's quite a bit to look. Yeah, I was going to say there's quite a bit to look forward to. Did you want to add something else there? Did I interrupt you? Sorry, Don.
No, that's fine. We've got quite a lot, as you can see, we've got quite a lot on our plate. But obviously we're looking to build the team to support that growth over the coming months.
Excellent. Well, look, we will be keeping a watchful eye over the venture and those milestones as you embark on that timeline. And for those who are interested in reaching out and talking to a representative from Praesideo, we will have their details on the side of the screen, a link to their deal room where those conversations can continue. And Duncan, thank you for coming on, and I wish you the best with Praesideo.
Sydney, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much, and look out for our product launch.
Excellent. Thanks, Duncan.
Thanks, Sydney.